Okay, welcome back. So we've learned basically that Jingmei has this opportunity to go to China, but she doesn't feel like she has the ability to tell her mom's story.
Ah, that's right.
Right. Now, what we're kind of not seeing in this story is that this is just, we're telling this story about a mother-daughter relationship, but obviously Soo-yeon was a person in the community. She knew other people. She had other relationships, that sort of thing. So we actually, in the book, I think that you learn that she's a pretty amazing person.
Yeah.
We just don't really get a chance to talk about that here. But I think that's why Jingmei doesn't really feel like she's able. She doesn't know that part of her mom, right? And she's not the only one that's worried. Here it says, the ladies are also concerned.
All right. So next it says, Soo-yeon's struggle to maintain a mother-daughter bond across cultural and generational divides will not be easy to explain. So as we mentioned before, maybe, you know, Soo-yeon, she has a lot of friends. All her friends love her, but it was so hard for her to, you know, have a good relationship with her own daughter because she just wanted her daughter to do well or to be the best that she can be. Now we talk about the mother and daughter bond. Now when you have a bond with someone, it just means you have a connection with this person. You have a relationship with this person because you share things like ideas or interests or even experiences and feelings, most importantly. So that's why you have a bond or you can form bonds with certain people.
Right.
For example, we can say a sentence like this. Recent events have helped to strengthen the bonds between our two countries. So the relationship between two countries. Or I can say my roommate and I share a bond because we both grew up in Taiwan. We both kind of share this connection of, you know, growing up in Taiwan and growing up with the same culture.
Right. Now, another problem that she has is she doesn't really know how to cross, or they don't know how Jingmei will cross the generational divide and cultural divide. But we're going to talk about generational divide here. Now, it's an adjective. The noun form is generation. The adjective is generational, and it describes something that talks about a particular generation or that relates to the differences between generations. Now, here, we're saying that there is a big difference between people Soo-yeon's age, that's the older generation, and people Jingmei's age, that's the younger generation.
So we can see that it was hard for her mother to kind of connect with her daughter because of culture and because of also they're in different generations. Now let's continue reading. It says, nevertheless, they all agree that Jingmei should be the one to share her mother's story. So they, or the other ladies in the Joy Luck Club, believe that Jingmei should be the right person, that she should be the only one to go and share her mother's story. Now we see the vocabulary word here, nevertheless. It's an adverb and it means in spite of what has just been said. It can also just mean however as well. So for example, we can say, the snow was very cold. Nevertheless, the children still had fun playing in it. So it just means that it was very, very cold outside. However, but the children had a lot of fun playing in the snow.
Okay, so all these ladies in the Joy Luck Club, they think Jingmei is the only person who can do this. They're worried about her, but they think she's the right person for the job. And here we learn that Jingmei does too. It says, in spite of her worries, Jingmei realizes she should make the trip to China. All right, now we started that sentence with the phrase in spite of. We could also use the word despite here, so despite her worries. Now, this phrase means that something is true or exists even though something else might have prevented it from being true or existing. Now, we often use a certain pattern to say this. It starts with in spite of or despite, then a noun, so in spite of her worries. Then we go to a new clause and we start that with a subject and verb. Okay, so in spite of her worries, Jingmei realizes. Okay, so we've got our noun and we've got our in spite of and we got our subject and verb. Okay, we could say also in spite of or despite plus verb ing. So in spite of running, I lost the election.
Oh, that's
Something like that, right? Here's a couple examples to sort of put this out for you a bit easier. So we could say, in spite of his fear of flying, Eric flew to Hawaii for his brother's wedding. Okay? Now, let's turn it around. Let's say, in spite of losing the game, there's our verb ing, Whitney had fun at the soccer match.
Oh, okay. All right. So we can use in spite of, or we can also use despite as well.
That's right. Now, we're going to do it in this form here. We could say, in spite of the fact that, or despite the fact that.
So we added the fact that, right?
Right.
Okay.
Now, we're saying the exact same idea, just in a few different words. So, in spite of the fact that Eric is afraid to fly, he flew to Hawaii for his brother's wedding. Okay? And we could also say, despite the fact that Whitney lost the game, she still had fun at the match.
Ah, okay. So there's so many ways for you guys to try it out.
Yeah.
And I think, just with it depends on what you want to say and how you want to say it.
Some are more formal, some are more casual. So if you're talking to a boss, you might say despite the fact that, and if you're just talking to your friends, you might use the other pattern.
All right, so let's continue reading. It says, when she finally meets Chunyu and Chunhua, the three sisters connect immediately. Okay, so she does go to China in the end to meet her sisters, and they connect immediately. Now, immediately is an adverb, and it means something happens without any delay or with no person or thing in between. So they immediately, that means they directly, had a great connection. They talked, they enjoyed each other's company.
It didn't take any time.
Exactly. We can also say this. They live in the house immediately behind this one, meaning directly behind this one. Or we can also say dinner was served immediately after their ceremony. So after the ceremony was done, boop, dinner was served and everyone was happy eating.
Happy and full and gone home to bed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the way it should be. Okay, let's continue on in the article. We know now Jingmei is in Shanghai and she's with her sisters and they are connecting. And here it says, through hugs and tears, Jingmei fulfills Suyuan's last wish. Aww. That's nice. Okay, so we see that Jingmei has fulfilled Suyuan's last wish. Here, fulfill means to achieve something that you wanted to do or to get something that you've wished for. Now, Suyuan's last wish was to reconnect with the culture and the daughters that she'd left behind. Though she couldn't do that herself, Jingmei achieves this for her. Now, here's an example sentence. The young athlete finally fulfilled her dream of competing in the Olympics.
Oh, that's a really, really happy kind of ending to this story.
Yeah.
And then we learn a little bit more about their trip. It says, she, which is Jingmei, also recognizes that she has finally bridged the gap between her and her mother. So she, after understanding and realizing a little bit more about her mom, she they kind of grew closer together, even though her mom is not around anymore.
That's right, and I think that's a really important thing to do. You need to have that connection.
Yeah.
You need to share that bond with your family, and I like the phrase bridge the gap. It's like you're building a little bridge over the hole between the two people, right? Okay, so Jingmei, she has fulfilled her mother's last wish. She's grown closer to her mother, and that's not it. Here it says, on top of finding her own closure, Jingmei also inspires the ladies of the Joy Luck Club. Now that's another good thing to happen, and it happens on top of all those other things. This phrase, on top of something, is used to introduce another fact or another piece of information that you want to add to something else you've said. So not just connecting with her mom, not just fulfilling her mother's wish, also this.
That's right.
Yeah, so here's another example sentence. The airline lost our luggage. On top of that, our flight was delayed for 8 hours.
Oh man, what a horrible flying experience. That's not really fun at all.
No.
All right, so after all, she got her closure. Now, closure here just means the feeling that her problem has been solved.
Right.
So sometimes this happens when you have something bad going on with someone. You might want to seek closure. You might want to seek for this thing to be solved. So she finally got her closure. She realized, okay, this is
everything's
what my mom
okay.
says.
Yeah, that's a really good way to feel. If you don't have closure, you're worried about stuff all the time.
You're stuck on that problem.
Yeah.
It's not a good feeling.
Okay, so everybody's got closure now, and she's also inspired the Joy Luck Club ladies. Here it says they, that's the ladies, now realize it's possible to do the same with their own daughters.
Oh, yay!
Yay! So one thing we didn't mention is that the ladies in that group all have a daughter as well, and they have the same sort of problems that Jingmei and her mother do. We just don't hear about them as much as we do theirs. All right, well, it all kind of came together in the end.
Yay.
Nice little package there. Everything ended well. Okay, well, we're going to talk more about the actual book tomorrow, so stay tuned. For now, we're going to do our For You chat.